Racing the second day was headed by the novices and followed by the experts. Almost 500 riders were registered at the Lee Cooper Grand Prix. The qualifying system worked as follows. Every rider competes in 3 motos, and the lowest 4 scores of the riders in each motos being the ones to qualify to the quarterfinals, semi-finals and the main events. Racing is always very fierce and competitive, with riders battling it out to get over the finish line at first, as you're just about to see.
And as you can appreciate, usually bicycle motocross is raced on outdoor tracks on dirt, so it's quite a difference to come onto this sort of surface, which is quite slippery, usually used for roller skating and that sort of thing. And to come onto this surface, going round these flat turns, is quite difficult, as you can see. As quite a few riders were having a great time going around the corners. Which was very entertaining for the crowd. You can hear the starter there. He said, riders ready, pedals ready, go. That's the same throughout BMX. No matter what country you're in, it's always the same. Always the same starting system.
Quite a few of the younger riders had problems staying up in the turns. That was probably due to the straights being very, very long, and speed and momentum was gained going down these straights, and the smaller riders had a lot of a problem slowing down for the turns and ended up sliding off and in big heaps in the first turn.
Which was very good for spectators, but not so good for the riders, as you can appreciate.
One thing with a slippery surface though, if a rider does fall off, it tends to slide along the surface, and hardly any injuries are incurred while racing indoors. Around the track there are certain obstacles riders have to get over. What they're going over now is called a speed jump. The aim of that really is to, if you can, pedal over the whole thing by compressing your body and tucking up over it. Some riders have got the technique and others haven't. The first turn was very, very slippery there. Obviously because you're going into it so fast and you have to turn at such a tight angle, a lot of the riders' wheels were slipping out in the turns. That's quite an easy win now.
If anyone's watching bicycle motocross for the first time, I think they'll be quite surprised at the speed that these riders go, especially the younger riders. And it really is very spectacular to watch. All BMX riders have to turn up at a BMX meeting with full protective gear, which includes a helmet, gloves and padding in the knees and elbows. On the bicycle itself, stem pads and handlebar pads and crossbar pads for the frame are required.
This really is not for anybody else's protection apart from your own. If you do slip your pedals when you're racing, your whole body weight is transferred forward and you end up landing on the frame tube or against the handlebars, and just protects basically your chin and your chest and your legs from getting knocked about when you're riding.
At the beginning of a race meeting, all bikes are checked by a qualified scrutineer. That means that the bikes get a very good going over to check for loose nuts and bolts, to make sure all the right gear's on the bike, and to check for pads and that sort of thing.
If the scrutineer thinks there's anything wrong with the bike, maybe the bottom bracket is loose which holds the cranks in, then the scrutineer will send that rider back to the pits to have him fix his bike and make it safe to race on.
BMX racing caters for a large area of age groups. Age groups at a BMX meeting go from 5 and under right up to 17 plus. So you can be anything from 5 years old right up to 26 years old. In America, the top rider is, around 25 years old, and he's earning $100,000 a year doing it. So it really is big in America.
The riders we're watching at the moment are, I think, in their 10 to 11 age group, and really for the time they've been riding are very competent on a bike.
That's one of the beauties of BMX racing. It teaches the kids to handle their bikes so well. Police officers that I've talked to in my local area have all said that, BMX riders seem to be much safer on the road because they do know how to handle a bike. And most BMX bikes do come street legal. So all that has to be put on them really is lights, which is one of the beauties of a BMX bike, because you can do your paper round on it, you can race it, you can go down your local shop. It's a very useful bike.
Riders just then went over the first speed jump. This really takes a lot of skill to get over, and the front wheel has to be lifted over the front part of the jump to let the rear wheel follow over, so the rider doesn't get too squirrely or bobble when he's going over that turn. It also helps, in fact, slowing the rider down for the first turn, so you don't get a big gaggle of 8 riders just burning into the first turn and having one almighty crash. The track here was about, on an average, 22 seconds long, and tracks can range from 20 seconds to 45 seconds long, depending on what kind of space is available at the time.
And quite a few riders in this race are coming off in the turns, which leaves one rider out in front, which is quite handy because he can take it easy till he gets over the finish line. But usually there's a right battle for second and third spot, which is quite entertaining for the spectators. As the riders come across the finish line, they're sent out round the back of the track, so not to get into way of the other riders coming round the track.
The riders now just come out the first turn. When accelerating with your feet on the pedals, it is quite slippery, and they're kind of trying to get as much traction as they can to shoot up the straight and set up for the next corner. Special care has to be taken in the turns. Obviously, when you're going round, trying to keep your weight based over the bike centrally and not to lock the brakes up, as that incurs a skid and you may fall off or get knocked by someone else who's going a little bit faster than you behind you. What I was saying about the speed jump earlier is you can bobble over there. 2 riders there had a little bit of a knock going over and ended up on the floor. You saw there the lap scorers. What happens is as soon as the riders come across the line, there are a team of workers who take down the numbers of the riders and transfer them instantly to the race organiser, who then puts them in prospective motos if they have qualified out of the transfer system.
One thing that you'll notice as these races go around the track is the amount of competitiveness there is in each of the age groups. In a BMX season, there are around 20 nationals. Now, each of those nationals counts towards points. So it's up to the individual rider to get as many points as he can to earn the #1 plate. Now, he can be #1 in his age group. So it really is up to the rider to train and practice and get that #1 spot.
I think you'll agree, Andy, though, that the start is one of the most crucial, if not the most crucial thing on the BMX track, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. Most riders these days practice starts more than anything else, because once you're out of that gate, then you can dictate where most of the other riders go. So if you watch the rider that's out in front in this race, I think you'll find that he can dictate where all the other riders go.
As you see, the rider that got the start there is now still in first place, as the other riders have to follow him, and he can choose and pick and choose where he wants to go. He bobbled a little bit coming out of that turn, but because he was ahead, he still managed to keep the advantage.
I wonder if that is James Bond underneath that helmet. He had 007 on his number plate there. In BMX in this country, there is a governing body, and when you join the governing body, you automatically get a number. Now, after you've raced a full season, and you say you're in the top 10 of your age group, then you can put that number on the front of your number plate. So if you came 7th in your age group, then you can ride with #7 on your number plate.
I think the race now, Andy, may be a tie break for two kids that have drawn on points to be the one that decides who goes through to the next qualifying slot.
Yes.
Again there, the rider who was first into the first turn is now dictating the race again. If you are first into the first turn, the kind of slang word for getting there first is hole shot.
And that definitely is the most important part of a BMX race. If you can get the hole shot and stay there, then that's 50% of the race. Those riders was waiting there to be told that their numbers had been taken and they can go, because if all the riders go across the line and one of the finish line judges hadn't quite got their number, then the rider could go and then there'd be quite a big mess up, as it were. And one rider slid down in that turn. But one of the good things about BMX and bicycle motocross race meetings is it teaches the kids a discipline. At a BMX meeting, they have to be on the gate at a certain time. Everything is done, it involves discipline. So it really does teach the kids to do what they're told and to enjoy being with other people. As you can see up on the start hill, there's quite a few officials in charge of everything that goes on up there. They've all got a separate job, so everything's very organised. And there again, one rider came off his bike quite heavily there, but he's straight back on his bike and back in the race, because you never know what's going to happen with the guys in the front. As you saw there, the leader slipped off there, so that guy who came off first of all has got a chance of moving up one place.
Just because you're in the lead and you may have a comfortable margin of a lead doesn't mean you can slack off when you're racing, because the race isn't over until you cross the finish line. there are a lot of things can happen. You could have something go wrong with your bike, or someone come from behind and do a banzai crash into you, and they take you both off in one turn. So it's always best to ride to your full capabilities until you cross that finish line in first place.
That rider on the gate there, very nervous. And the gate's down. You can see at the speed that they shoot out of the gate.
This rider we're looking at now has quite a comfortable lead, but still he's not left any room for error, so he's got to concentrate very hard on keeping his first place. Even though the riders fall off, maybe at the start of the track or the end of the track, they still don't give up trying. This rider now is trying his hardest to get back up there, just to kind of finish the race.
I would advise anyone that's going into BMX racing to go to a few meetings just to get the experience, because there's no way any rider can go to a BMX meeting and expect to win if he hasn't ridden before. And you know, it just needs experience. The more races you go to, the more experience you'll get, and the more confident you'll be on a BMX track.
Looking at the riders as they go around the first turn, there's a bit of jostling for position as they could try and regain their pedals to go along the second straight. As they go over the tabletop, they go under a tunnel, which basically was used to save space when building the track.
At any BMX meeting, there'll always be a first aid post nearby.
Okay, we've got another view of the tabletop there, and the guy that just took it did compress his body as he went over there, which enabled both his wheels to stay on the ground for him to keep pedaling when he was going over the jump. This is a whole lot faster than grabbing air and jumping over it, because that way you can't get any power to the ground and power through the jump.
Yeah, that's a good point. In other words, if your wheels are not on the ground, then you're losing speed. So the idea over these jumps is to keep your wheels as close to the jump as possible.
That guy there got some air over that jump and it probably cost him a bit of time, as he could have pedalled over it if he really would have tried.
Yes, I think one thing you'll notice, if you look at all the BMX bikes that are going around this track, and one guy's fell off and looks like he's hurt himself there, but he should be alright. And there you go, he's walking away there. So, one thing that most riders do between motos is take their bikes into the pit area and adjust the chain, make sure every nut and bolt is tight, so that the next moto they're not going to have no trouble with their bikes.
Yeah, it would be such a good idea, Andy, would it really, if you kind of forgot to tighten your chain up and the chain slipped in the main when you're in the lead.
What I was going to say before is, if you look at all the bikes going around this BMX track, you'll see that most of them are different. There's around 50 different kinds of BMX bike, well, makes of BMX bike that you can buy, but you don't have to buy a complete bike. There's a complete list of accessories that you can buy, so you can choose a frame, wheels, handlebars. They could be all different, but they'll all fit together just the same, so you can make up a bike out of any spares that you like.
I said earlier about the surface being slippery then. That guy could have had a pretty nasty crash, but because the surface was so slidey, he just slid along and just jumped back on his bike straight away.
And another point about the safety on a BMX bike is that if you ever find yourself in a position where you're going to crash, then you must leave the bike and always fall onto your hands. Go down on your hands, and try and do a forward roll. So as you come off the bike, go onto your hands and a forward roll. That will take most of the impact when you land.
As I said earlier, that guy was in the lead but hadn't finished the race. He may have been taken a little bit easier and tended to kind of bobble a little bit as he went over that last speed jump, and it didn't pay off because he went from first to last in that race in the matter of about a second.
And he wasn't too happy about that. But there's always the next race, so you can bet he'll go for it twice as much in the next race. It's great to see those guys get straight back on their bike after they've crashed like that. This is a very tight race.
Now we're starting the expert races, and they start from the smallest up as well.
And look at that little guy at the back.
That guy instantly, as soon as he fell off, he looked behind him, just simply for the fact that if there's anybody coming towards him, he could have dived out the way so that guy didn't hit him. He's taking it really careful round that turn there. It's better to be safe than kind of go in a little bit faster than you think you can handle, because there's always that element that you may fall off. And when you're in the lead, you can dictate what line everybody else uses. So if you want to go a little bit slower through the turn, everybody has to follow you at the same speed you're going.
It's really great to see young riders like that really going for it on this type of track. And at any BMX meeting, you know, the young riders that do attend and actually go in for the racing is quite amazing.
This is another two-man race here. They've both fallen off. They don't give up trying though. As soon as they're off, they're kind of straight back on the bikes and jam round the track again.
And one rider's down again.
He's pushing pretty hard to get back up that speed jump.
Pushed all the way up that jump. That's determination for you. And he got over the line first. And I think the other rider's still to finish. And here he comes. You can hear the crowd applauding. That's no mean feat.
He just
for a
does a
small rider like that.
quick prod as he goes over that jump just to make sure he gets over it.
You can see there that they're very young riders, and the way they controlled their bikes over that first jump is, you know, incredible for a rider that size. On the gate now are the 14-year-old experts. Very exciting racing. Out in the front in the moment is Terry Lloyd. Round that turn, Martin Jose just coming in for second there. Under the tunnel, got quite a lead.
The leader then just had a look back to see how far the competition was behind.
But there's a right battle for second place. Martin Jose just gets that. The racing really does get quite spectacular when you get into the older age groups. This is the 15-year-old expert final. Some very fast riders in this age group. Guy to watch is the guy in a green and yellow racing gear. That's Nicky Matthews from London. Gets out of that turn first, over the tabletop. Now if you saw the way they took that tabletop, they pedalled right the way over it, didn't lose any speed at all. Nicky slipped a bit there, but he's still out in front, over that jump. And Harvey Monkton there, giving him a right battle for first place.
Harvey caught the leader up then about 10 yards simply by just pedalling over that last jump. If the race may have been 50 yards longer, he may have taken him, you don't know, but the finish was where it was and Nicky got that #1 place.
And that's me and you, Tim.
Yeah, that's definitely us. This is us. This must be one of the motos. When I come round now, I'm taking it pretty easy there and trying to pedal over that turn and keep my wheel on the ground.
Yes, I didn't do too good in that race. But with 3 motos, if you don't do any good in one of them, then you've got the next 2 to really go for it.
We're still on a 16 experts now.
And the rider out in front at the moment is Steve Grattan. He came all the way from Doncaster to come down here.
John Lee, who lives in Chorley, is leading at the moment, and he's kind of got Steve Grattan on his tail.
Took that turn very cautiously there. John still keeps his lead. Steve Grattan coming in second.
Seeing the riders in the 16 age group, you see them snap out the start as fast as they can, and all the riders are like together until the bottom of the start hill, or till the jump, until kind of somebody stops pedaling maybe. It's just who gets to the first turn is dependent on who pedals the longest along the straight.
Pete Middleton had a very good start there. He's in second place at the moment, but Jamie Vince had the advantage on the inside because he was right on the inside of the turn and was able to come through that turn and come out first.
Despite a few slip-ups there, Pete managed to hold on to second.
That's a very important point, actually. You must aim for the inside of a turn. If you're on the outside, then a rider can come on the inside of you where there's less ground to cover.
We're watching now the junior girls group. The girls may be taking it a little more cautiously than the boys, but they're still getting round there safely and they're not slipping up in the turns or anything.
and that was quite a close finish as well. Some of the older girls, in fact, are just as fast as the boys.
When meetings aren't too full also, the girls do race sometimes in the boys groups.
And one rider there got a very good start out the gate. But he slid off in a turn.
We're on to the main events now. These are the finals that everybody's qualified for all day.
The atmosphere for one of these finals is incredible because all those riders that are in that main have raced 3 motos, possibly quarters and semi-finals just to get to that race. So everybody's going absolutely 100% to get over that finish line first.
They're the best 8 riders of the day as well.
And it's quite a tough job qualifying. With the amount of riders that are turning up at BMX meetings nowadays in Britain, it really is a hard job to qualify. At most meetings now, we're getting up to 500 riders. BMX has been...
The guy in the lead actually then just fell in the tunnel there, which is a bit of a shame. He was in the lead in the main event, so I guess he's going to be pretty annoyed about that. There he is there. Dad's condoling him.
And back to the racing. And this is the 11-year-olds final. Steve Gilly out in front there at the moment, also from London. We saw him earlier in the freestyle competitions.
Jamie Turner there won that. Steve must have slipped in one of the turns and ended up back in 3rd.
And this is the 14 expert main event. Nicky Matthews there in the green and yellow gear had a pretty good start but got caught in the bunch in the first turn. And this is Jeremy Vince in 2nd place, and Nicky Matthews did an excellent manoeuvre there to take the lead. Now he's kept his lead over that jump, and it's Jeremy Vince in 2nd, Martin Jost just coming in for 3rd spot.
This is the last final of the day, the 16 expert main. I got a pretty good start there actually, one of my better ones of the day. Despite slipping up, I kind of had to push my bike out of the rubble because I think about 6 riders came down all in one bunch. I just happened to be the first one to pick my bike up.
And you can see Steve Grattan there having a bit of trouble with the edge of the track. But Jeremy Vince coming in there for 2nd. Steve Grattan made up the ground and came in 3rd. Some excellent riding.
That's you, Andy, just gone across the line there.
Yeah, I wasn't too pleased myself there.
We're down to novice finals now, and this is the 14s. Racing's just as fierce though, like those 2 guys in front are really going for it. The one on the outside's just kind of had the edge and the speed to go past the leader there.
You can see on the start line there that 3 out of the 6 riders was doing what's called a 1-pedal start. That's with 1 foot on the ground and 1 foot pressing on the pedal against the gate. The other 3 riders were doing 2-pedal starts. That's with both feet on the pedals, pushing up against that gate. So as soon as the gate goes, you push out as hard as you can. Try and get out first, get the whole shot. One rider being congratulated there. Actually, I don't think he's giving his mate abuse. He's just saying that he's got 1 more point and he can get through. A couple of riders down there, which bring all the others down. But they're straight back on their bikes, going after that rider who's in front. 2 riders having a battle around that turn. If you notice the rider in front there, cut across the rider who is in 2nd. And nearly smashed the cameraman there. But the cameraman survived. There's a lot of sportsmanship in BMX. pedalled over that tabletop. That was an excellent illustration of pedalling over that jump. The rider on the inside didn't pedal over it, so the rider on the outside pedalled right over that jump and got himself a 2-foot lead just by doing that. That's how important it is to ride over these jumps and not lose any time at all. And one rider out in front there made one wrong move, one lapse in concentration, and he slipped off the bike.
The first four of those, please go to the start again, please.
Now we're coming to the end of the meeting now. Still on the novice main finals.
That guy just slid slightly, so he put his foot down there just to steady himself when he was going around that corner, just checking that he wasn't going to slide off. We've got a full lineup here. All those riders jam out there. Now that guy's got a pretty good hole shot there, so he's going to dictate to the other riders where they're all going to go.
Now if you saw that, the way that rider crashed there, he's straight back on his bike, so bicycle motocross is not very dangerous.
That guy's led from start to finish. He had a good, safe race. Kept himself well ahead of the competition so he didn't get involved in any minor crashes or anything, and won it by quite a considerable margin.
You can see that rider's very pleased.
Well, that brings to an end the first Lee Cooper BMX Grand Prix. And we hope you enjoyed the video as much as we enjoyed participating in this event. If you see Andy or myself at any of the meetings, please come over and have a chat, as we'll be all too glad to meet you.
And we leave you with the thought that not everything went right for everybody. Good luck.
And goodbye.